A lovely good morning and welcome to the Camnet Breakfast Show with me, Patrick Soko. And I'll be alone today, but I'll be joined by a guest to help me discuss the topic we'll be looking at. And we'll be focusing on issues affecting you, especially you, our dear viewers, in your various localities. That's our focus in terms of the topic of discussion on the Camnet Breakfast Show. As usual, the Camnet Breakfast Show is brought to you by Camnet TV because we care and we have to always make sure that we get you updated in current affairs and making sure that you are abreast with what is happening in the news and entertainment. Now we get straight into the segment we call the Health Corner with Dr. Mufaya there, so that we can get an understanding what's just prepared for us in terms of our health. Stay tuned.
Hi, good morning, and welcome to today's health segment on the Breakfast Show. I am Dr. Nakbiana Mfaya. So this week we are talking about malaria, and yesterday we discovered what are some of the symptoms and signs of somebody that has malaria. We talked about things like headache, fever, nausea, vomiting, body weakness, and just body malaise in general are some of the symptoms of somebody that has malaria. So today we'll talk about what is the diagnosis and how is malaria diagnosed and treated in the hospital. So the diagnosis and treatment of malaria is mostly done in the hospital, and the doctor in the hospital will be able to do certain tests that will be able to determine whether you have malaria for sure or you have another infection. So they will do several tests to also check if there are any other complications, including complications to the liver, to the kidneys, and other organs. Malaria can cause anemia, and so there will be need to be able to check your blood to see if you have enough blood, and if you don't have enough blood, then the doctors will be able to know exactly what to do. So malaria is treated with anti-malarial medications, and there are several medications that are used in the treatment of malaria. Because malaria is caused by different plasmodiums or different types of parasites, the treatment is usually tailored to the type of parasite that has infected the patient. So you will need to be able to get medication based on the type of plasmodium that has infected you. But usually patients receive medications that will be able to target most of the parasites, the types of parasites that cause malaria. So it's important that you get treatment as soon as possible. Malaria can be very deadly and can kill very quickly if treatment is not given in good time. So be sure to get treatment as soon as possible because malaria can cause so many complications. So tomorrow we will discuss some of the complications of malaria. Today we have learned that malaria can be treated, and how it can be treated is through several medications that are used in the treatment of malaria based on the type of infection that you have. So be sure to seek treatment early and make sure that you are safe and without any complications. So take your loved ones to the hospital as soon as you realize that they have malaria, or if you suspect that they have malaria, to get early treatment. This has been the health segment on the Breakfast Show. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to tune in tomorrow again to learn more about the complications of malaria.
There you have it. Thank you very much, Dr. Mufaya, for that good explanation of on a treatment and diagnosis of malaria. Malaria is a common but a deadly disease, but it is also manageable in Zambia. In that there are quite a number of interventions the Zambian government and its cooperating partners have put in place to just make sure that they combat this deadly disease. But however, you have to always know the symptoms so that you can take a proactive approach in terms of seeking medical attention. Otherwise, malaria can be deadly. It affects everyone, including children and the elderly and the like. So let's make sure that we are proactive in protecting ourselves from getting malaria. Malaria is caused by a mosquitoes that are infected, and it is quite a deadly disease. And we hope that you manage to get one or two things on the treatment and diagnosis of malaria, and make sure that you still tune in the same time tomorrow as we bring you another aspect of the same topic with Dr. Mufaya. Interesting. Now we have to understand how the kwacha is performing against other major convertibles such as the United States dollars. So let's look at this now. The Greater British Pound is buying at 22 kwacha 67 ngwe and selling at 23 kwacha 12 ngwe. $1 is buying at 17 kwacha 97 ngwe and selling at 18 kwacha 33 ngwe. And the euro is buying at 19 kwacha 76 ngwe and selling at 20 kwacha 14 ngwe rather. And the South African rand is buying at 0.293 ngwe and selling at 1 ngwe. Interesting. So those are your money market. You can have a look at how the kwacha is performing. It has been depreciating, and we can see that on the selling part there, it is moved towards 18 to 33 ngwe, and it's an indication that it has been also going back to rise, because recently we saw it decline a little, coming down, and it was good for the economy, and Zambians were excited. And we also saw it translate into the reduction of the fuel pump price by a margin of about 1 kwacha. So we still see that the Zambian government is still using the same reflection in terms of reducing and increasing the price of fuel. They are following the performance of the kwacha as well as the prices of oil on the international market. So that's how the Zambian government has been adjusting the prices of fuel. However, let me also make it clear that the minister has continued to receive feedback, and that's the Minister of Finance, in terms of people who have been complaining about the monthly review of fuel pump prices, in that it affects companies in terms of their planning. So the minister did suggest that during the review of the performance of the national budget for the first quarter of 2023, it did indicate that that is being looked at, but he also made a justification that it will be illogical for government to keep the pump price amidst fluctuating prices. He also gave an example that in an event the prices reduce on the international market, it will be difficult to instantly translate into the benefit to consumers within that same period of time. But however, others have argued to say a 3 months window or a quarterly window gives people room to plan for what they're going to spend on fuel. So others have also argued that the focus by the government should be at enhancing the fuel reserves so that we can purchase more if we have enough resources and store more to cover us for a period of 6 months or 3 months. It will go a long way towards just making sure that the consumers enjoy a stable price for a longer period of time. That also tends to be the same when it comes to bus fares, because the commuters also are affected with the reviews that are usually undertaken on a monthly basis. But however, for now, there's been some agreement between the transporters and the government, and we have seen that it has remained static for a while, especially for local routes. Lusaka, it has been static at 16 kwacha, and that's as when you are coming from, we're leaving time going to your various destinations. So we are seeing that there's also there's been a little bit of stability, and the price has been maintained, and we just hope that it will continue to be like that, and also reduce further. So those are some of the indicators in terms when you're looking at this the performance of the kwacha. So now this the money market is equally up for sponsorship on Camnet TV. If you are a financial institution, you can equally partner with us. We can so that you can advertise your products and services on the money market. Now let's just also look at some of the interesting aspects of what was happening yesterday. It was the Champions League. Now, the Champions League, meaning that they were quite interesting matches. And talking about interesting matches, we're talking about the match especially involving Real Madrid as well as Manchester City. I understand that most of the people who are sympathizers, who like teams in England, were going for Manchester City. But for me, it has always been Madrid. And I'm saying hi to all of you who support Real Madrid. However, this match ended 1-0. And it means that this team still have to settle matters at Etihad. That's in England. They have to make sure that they finish matters, they finalize matters in that ground. And today we are going to have Inter Milan versus AC Milan. These teams are both coming from Spain, and it is going to be interesting in that it will be or rather Italy. Both teams are coming in Italy, and they are going to be playing against each other. It is going to be an interesting match in that it has been always competitive between the two, AC Milan and Inter Milan. So we are going to see who's going to carry the day. Interesting enough. And one thing that we are guaranteed of this fixture is that one team is heading into the final. That's a team from Italy is heading into the final. There is no doubt about that. Now, the other debate will come about whether one team from England or one team from Spain will be there. So we'll see between Madrid as well as Manchester City who is going to progress to the finals. It's not yet over until it's over next week as they play on the second leg fixtures. Interesting. Now let's also look now at some of the stories that are making the headlines here on Camnet TV, as some of the stories that we carried, and also look at we'll be getting your perspective and your views on the topic of discussion. Before my guest joins me, you can equally share with us what are some of the issues you feel need attention. What are some of the issues you feel the government is not addressing properly, the NGOs are not paying attention to, the media is not covering much. Those issues, you can bring them out and we get discussing. So now let me look at my first story. We'll start with stories from the courts. We had quite an interesting day at the court yesterday. We saw a lot of prominent people, especially those aligned to the former ruling party, the Patriotic Front, in court. And let's get to look at this story where former Defense Minister Geoffrey Mwamba has told the Economic and Financial Crimes Court that intends to challenge its decision to reject admission into evidence document indicating how he engaged the Ministry of Defense to avail his original copies of the letter he wrote in which he declared interest. This is in a case in which Mr. Mwamba is accused of failing to disclose an interest in writing relating to the contract for the supply and delivery of general purpose shelter tents for the Zambia Army whilst he was the defense minister. When the matter came up before the Lusaka Magistrate Court, Mr. Mwamba made an application to the Constitutional Court for the review of the decision by the Magistrate Ngobola and not to allow one of the documents to be part of the evidence. He claims that the decision by Magistrate Ngobola will affect his defense and his fair trial. So let's get to look at this story, and we'll also look at another court story there done by Miriam Kaimba. Keep it on Camnet.
Unsatisfied with the lower court decision to refuse to allow him to tender a document as part of his evidence, former Defense Minister Geoffrey Mwamba now wants to rush to the High Court to challenge the said decision. Mr. Mwamba, who is commonly known as GBM, has made an application before Lusaka Magistrate Stanford Ngobola, requesting that he refers his matter to the High Court. He claims the decision by Magistrate Ngobola will affect his defense and fair trial. He has cited Article 28 and 18 of the Constitution and requested his case to be taken to the High Court for a constitutional reference. The opposition outspoken politician is currently on his defense. The matter has been adjourned by the court to the 18th for a ruling on whether it will allow the application or not. In this matter, Mr. Mwamba is accused, among others, 8 counts of conflict of interest, 1 count of money laundering and 15 counts of possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime, charges which he has denied before Magistrate Stanford Ngobola. In the previous court session, Magistrate Ngobola rejected admission into evidence document indicating that the accused engaged the Ministry of Defense to avail to him original copies of the letters he wrote in which he had declared interest. The accused had requested to admit into evidence letters he wrote to the ministry requesting for the said documents, and the response from the ministry in form of a letter indicating to him that the letter in question cannot be traced. According to the charges that the Anti-Corruption Commission have slapped the accused with, it is alleged from the 1st to the 8th count that during the time he was defense minister, the accused failed to disclose interest in relation to 8 contracts for supply of shelter tents for the Zambia Army valued at more than $1 million United States dollars, military regalia valued at $1.6 million United States dollars, and specialized waterman ship equipment for Zambia Army valued at $4 million United States dollars, which were awarded to Cozon Global Limited, and the transaction affected the Ministry of Defense. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News. He has almost a month to prepare his defense. Kaiser Zulu, who served as a political advisor under former President Edgar Lungu, has been found with a case to answer by the Lusaka's Magistrate Court. The court has ruled that the state has established a prima facie case against him. Magistrate presiding over his case, Suva Munyinya, has moved the case to June to allow the accused to have enough time to prepare for his defense. The former political advisor standing trial on charges bordering on failing to appear before a nearest immigration office and failing to surrender a diplomatic passport. In the first count, the state accuses Mr. Zulu of failing to appear before the nearest immigration office on the 9th of December 2022. While in the second count, he is accused of failing to surrender his diplomatic passport when required to do so by the Chief Passport and Citizenship Officer upon ceasing being a diplomat on the 20th of December 2019. During trial, one of the state witnesses had testified that there was no record on the immigration system showing the return of the accused in the country. Peter Fubuye, 45, an immigration officer based at Chirundu border, had testified that on the 4th of December 2022, after checking on an electronic system called Zambia Immigration, he discovered that the accused left the country on the 3rd of July, but there was no information indicating of his return. Mr. Zulu is expected to open his defense on the 9th of June 2023 and give his side of the story. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News. State prosecutors were Tuesday morning warned by the Lusaka Magistrate Court to cease wasting the court's time by failing to bring witnesses. The warning by Magistrate Irene Piri came after the state informed her that they wanted to adjourn the assault case that Economic and Equity Party leader Chilufya Tayali is facing because the witness who was supposed to testify this morning was not present. The magistrate expressed concern over the state's multiple adjournment, adding that if they fail to progress in the next court session, she will proceed to discharge Mr. Tayali from the criminal offense. Earlier, the prosecution team applied for an adjournment on account that the witness who was set to testify this morning, the arresting officer, is unwell. However, the application by the state did not sit well with the accused person, who through his lawyer asked the court to dismiss his assault case, citing lack of seriousness from the state to prosecute the matter. The accused lamented before court that it is unfair and not in the interest of justice that the state has continued seeking endless adjournment without any convincing reasons. Mr. Tayali in this matter has been accused of assaulting a female police officer from Chilenje police station, an allegation which he has denied. According to a statement earlier issued by the police, the accused allegedly assaulted a female police officer, Melod Malama, who operates a Chilenje police station in Lusaka, where he was detained after being nabbed upon his arrival from South Africa. It is alleged that when his wife took him food, she was requested by the said female constable Malama to test the food as per procedure when someone takes food to a suspect in custody. But the accused is said to have gotten annoyed that the officer would suspect his wife of poisoning him and threw the food on the floor. It is further alleged that Mr. Tayali got a kettle and hit the said female officer. The matter comes up on the 9th of June 2023. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
There you have it. Welcome back. You are still watching the Camnet TV Breakfast Show, Wednesday edition, governance, policy, as well as politics. And we are discussing pertinent issues affecting you in your various localities. And we'll be taking your calls, our dear viewers. In case you want to join the conversation, you can do so. Even on our socials, you can leave us a message and we get interacting. Interesting stories they are coming from the court. I hope you managed to pick one or two. In case you want to comment on those, you can do so, but commenting based on whatever has been covered and no addition or subtraction to avoid contempt of court. Now, we're looking at the issue. We're looking at the story where Mr. Mwamba has challenged his case to the Constitutional Court, and former President Edgar Lungu's political advisor Kaiser Zulu has been placed on his defense by the Lusaka Magistrate Court, and this is in relation to where he is alleged to have forcibly represented as a diplomat, among other charges. So these are the charges that the former presidential aide is facing, and he has been found with a case to answer. And I will be tracking that story through the courts, and Miriam Kemba will be on hand to be giving us those updates. And make sure you always don't miss the 1930 main news on Camnet TV for everything that you need in as far as information is concerned pertaining to the courts. We are leading in terms of court reporting. You can equally make sure you don't miss out in terms of knowing what is happening in the judiciary. Interesting cases do go there. People hardly cover them. People hardly know the outcomes. But here on Camnet TV, we're making sure that you get to know and understand what is happening, where the cases are, what's an update. We do just that in terms of us getting you informed in as far as court cases are concerned. So in case you want to join the conversation, you can call the number on the screen, and let's get interacting here on the Camnet Breakfast Show. Interesting stories there, but I also want to look at another interesting story. This is a story that was covered by Prudence Chota, where a Lusaka-based resident, Gilbert Mumba, is accused that the National Pensions Scheme Authority, NAPSA, of refusing to pay him, his family, the pension benefits left behind by his late father under the Zambian National Provident Fund. In an interview with Camnet News, Mr. Mumba says following the directive by President Hakainde Hichilema that all those who paid their benefits using ZNPF should correct their pension, his family made an effort to correct his father's benefits, which NAPSA agreed to pay. But Mr. Mumba is however saddened that NAPSA has returned on its decision and claims that the pension was paid to his late father in 1994 and 1995, when in fact not. So he is suspecting that NAPSA is trying to disadvantage them, and some people are trying to get the money that belongs to their family. So let's get to listen to this story. We'll be back on the other side.
Desperate to ensure that his father's pension is paid to his family, following President Hakainde Hichilema's directive that all those who paid their benefit under the Zambia National Provident Fund should access their resources, Gilbert Mumba has accused the National Pension Schemes Authority, NAPSA, of causing misery to his family after it failed to pay his family the claims of his late father's benefits. According to Mr. Mumba, he made submissions to NAPSA in 2022 to claim his late father's benefit, which NAPSA agreed to pay, but later the authority changed its decision and claimed that his father's benefits were paid to him in 1994 and in 1995, when in fact not.
When the president announced that all those under Zambia National Provident Fund must go and get their money, I started the process and the NAPSA agreed, and I was given this form to show that payment will be ready on October 9. So while I was waiting, I was so shocked that NAPSA came back and turned things around and told me that my father was paid, and this is the letter that they gave me. So from there we started following each other, and I've got all documents that supports me to show that my father was not paid.
He adds that NAPSA has refused to grant him and his 11 siblings closure over the matter by disclosing in whose account the said benefits were paid, apart from the old age resources his father received in 1994.
Letter to Legal Department dated 25th January 2023, and this is a letter. Surprisingly, the Legal Department, instead of replying in 14 days according to NAPSA regulation, they took 1 month, 6 days for them to reply to my letter. Even that, when I looked at their letter, they did not completely comment on everything that I was asking them. I decided again to write another letter to Legal Department. This is the letter.
He has since, in accordance with NAPSA Customer Service Charter, called on top management to give him and his family audience to provide proof that his father was never paid his benefits, further calling on the government and non-governmental organizations to help his family get closure on the matter.
I again, knowing what I know, what I'm doing, and knowing the law, I decided to keep on writing. I wrote a letter to the Director General, and this is a letter. But the letter for Director General was diverted to Authority Registry, which is not the case. When I went there to ask them, put a stamp and sign, they refused to sign for acknowledgement. That is the reason why I'm complaining, to say I need to sit down with the management. Why are they refusing to sign? Why don't they want me to sit down with the management? And why don't they want the Director General to know about my case? That is the reason I'm appealing to the Director General and the management. I demand to be paid.
Meanwhile, NAPSA Communications Officer Kefa Sinyangwe could not respond to this reporter over the matter as he was attending an urgent meeting. We will, however, continue to follow up the matter to its logical conclusion. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Well, welcome back. You're still watching the Camnet Breakfast Show with me, Patrick Soko, and we are discussing issues affecting you in various localities. And talking about issues affecting you, I think that's one of the issues there. People are getting their money, their partial benefits. It's interesting, you know. We are getting to discover a lot of things. We saw when President Hakainde Hichilema did make a pronouncement on that people under the Zambia National Provident Fund could be able to access their pensions. It was however, it was a good story, but now we are observing that others now cannot find their money. Others are suspecting that they are being duped. Others, so interesting story there we were looking at from Mr. Gilbert Mumba of Lusaka, who stays in John Lane compound. He brought out quite an interesting story, which will continue to follow up with NAPSA, because he suggests that someone wants to steal his money, and that he alleges that the people have been orchestrating this move to disadvantage his family. Now, these are issues that happen in various communities. In case you are a victim of such issues, in case you are facing similar challenges, you can also get in touch with us, or you can call us and share with us your experience now, so that we can get to understand some of the challenges that you do face. Now, we're talking about this partial, we also have the partial withdrawal of resources under the National Pensions Fund Authority, ANAPSA, where we have seen people turning up in numbers to just make sure that they can access their partial benefit before retirement, so that they can invest in one or two things here and there. Now, others are finding that there is no money, like the company they were working for has not been remitting their money. And that has been another problem we have been covering here on Camnet TV. I know quite a number of colleagues who are equally facing such circumstances where they worked for over 8 years and they have nothing in the coffers in as far as NAPSA is concerned. This means that their employer hasn't been remitting resources to NAPSA, and that's despite deducting. This is quite a criminal offense. It is an offense, and there are quite stiff penalties for that. And I know they did revise the penalties, but there are still penalties for that. Companies just have to comply. So in case you are that employer who thought, no, you can get away with not remitting the workers' contributions, then I'm sorry that the law will catch up with you. And this law has not just affected the companies in the private sector, it has also affected companies in government. We have seen quasi-government institutions that were not remitting workers' contributions to the pensions authority. So now that has been a problem, because workers now are going to seek clarity. How much am I getting for my partial withdrawal? I need to discover that the coffers are empty. It's sad, you know, when people take advantage of people's ignorance and do the wrong things. But however, this is an entitlement of every worker, especially given that if you have been deducting the resources, you just have to make sure that you do the right thing. It is no wonder that companies have been recommended by the Zambia Institute of Human Resources that companies must have qualified human resource personnel who understand the workers' needs, who understand how to manage the workers' affairs, so that they do not do the wrong things at the end of the day. Sometimes people do wrong things out of ignorance, but when it comes to matters of law, ignorance is not a defense. So you just have to do the right thing, because you cannot say I did not know. That does not count in the courts of law. So let's make sure that we do the right thing in whatever we do. And talking about this NAPSA issue, we just also hope that that family will be able to come to get to the bottom of the issue. That's if their father was really paid his resources, they should be able to get the trail or trace rather how the fund were deposited in that account, who withdrew the money, and on which day. The banks always have records. So I hope that they will manage to just get closure on that story, like Prudence Trotter did indicate. And we'll still be getting an update from ANAPSA on the same story to ensure that we just get further clarity on the matter. Now, other interesting stories that we had yesterday, we had other two interesting stories. Now, let's also look at, before we look at these two interesting stories, we'll look at the partnership between the Communist Party of China and the United Party for National Development. So let's get to zoom in this story where the Communist Party of China and the United Party for National Development, UPND, forged a political cooperation to champion the interest of the peoples of the two countries. So let's get to look at this story. We'll be back on the other side.
The Communist Party of China and the governing United Party for National Development, UPND, have embarked on a mutual political cooperation for the benefit of the people of the two countries. This proves to the contrary the perception that the UPND administration has sidelined China in preference for the West. Earlier, the delegation from the Communist Party paid a courtesy call on Vice President Mutarena Lumango before proceeding to a meeting with UPND senior party officials led by the Secretary General Batuke Menda. The two political parties engaged in closed-door meetings discussing the common working frameworks for the development of the two countries. They also exchanged a gift of significance about the traditions of the two countries to consolidate the partnership. And Mr. Imenda says China remains an all-weather friend to Zambia and that the UPND administration is keen to uphold party-to-party and country-to-country ties.
We are at a threshold where we feel the country has come together with the China as a party, the UPND. We are going forward with this relationship for the benefit of the Zambian people, and we feel this relationship should translate from politics to economics. The key to UPND policy as provided for in our manifesto is economic diplomacy. That is key. We may talk of other things, but for our survival as a country is dependent on economic diplomacy. And that's exactly what the journey that we are starting today going forward.
Mr. Wang Heming, the Director General of Africa Affairs of the Communist Party of China, has expressed commitment to continue strengthening political and economic ties with Zambia.
My third impression is that the China-Zambia relation is of great potential. Under the leadership of President Hichilema and also of UPND, the Zambia is boasted of a very stable political environment and also stable economic growth. And this has set a good foundation for the Chinese side to deepen cooperation in different fields with Zambia.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
Well, that's it. You have it. That's a story pertaining to the CPC and the UPND forging political as well as economic ties there with the China Communist Party. That's the ruling party of China and the ruling party of Zambia. They have agreed on a common framework and to work together as political parties to champion the interests of the people in the two countries. So we just hope that their partnership will be fruitful. And this is quite an interesting aspect of the turn of event in that the UPND has been coming under fire from various government critics suggesting that they have been prioritizing the West over China and other allies. So now this also tries to help cement those relations. If you look at it now, it means that The two political parties can advance a cooperation, that's if they have to, and they're serious and genuine about what they were talking about. They can now engage in a meaningful dialogue, even also lobby each other, especially Zambia can equally lobby in terms of the ongoing debt restructuring, because it has been quite hectic for the Ministry of Finance to address this issue of debt, and China is among the creditors which Zambia owes huge sums of money, and we hope that even at president to president, country to country, those ties reflect just that. But the UPND has also stated that these ties stem in terms of politics as well as economic affairs. So, and the Chinese Communist Party did acknowledge President Hakainde Hichilema's and Xi Jinping's commitment to ensure that they continue on the trajectory of Zambia-China all-weather friendliness, because if you look at infrastructure development that you are saying in modern Zambia, most of it is mostly courtesy over China, and China remains Zambia's critical bilateral partner in terms of national development. Most of the key infrastructures, such as the airport, such as the Kenneth Kaunda International Conference Center, which is at Mulungushi, was donated by the people of China to Zambia, and it's a state-of-the-art infrastructure that can host whatever kind of event, it be international or local. So if you look at the relations between the two countries, they speak for themselves in that what has been done in the past, what is being done is written all over. So now let's look at another story of interest, and that's a story where over 300 solar-powered streetlights along State Lodge Road in Lusaka have been vandalized by unscrupulous people who have been gradually stealing the solar panels. Let's get to listen to this story. We'll be back on the other side.
This is State Lodge Road in Lusaka, which pedestrians say has become impassable at night, as it is a hideout for criminals, after over 300 solar-powered streetlights that lit up the streets have been disappearing over a course of 2 years. A drive along the road reveals kilometers without any single solar panel on the streetlights, as they have all been stolen for possible resale. Pedestrians along this road have expressed concern over this theft, stating that no one is safe walking along this road at night.
I've been to Vinambo Solar for 2 years now. So kusiku bantu bamayopa kuyenda bayopa kugwiriwa na majanki ambeni pasogolo paja benzi banamenyako bantu from nowhere sti baziba buno bwino. So namanja pakalibo baziba kayimala ichi bakuba masola bakabibunka vonse batenga basiya chechisimbi cheka. So kuchoka papali findri kwenda fika kapena ni ku State Lodge kudibe malaiti vonse banapa.
Ndaba sembe tigamba tupali kwa polisi hapa olonani sembe vintu vonse viliko. So wa polisi one kamunga no security.
They are now calling for new streetlights to be erected along with surveillance cameras to scare off would-be thieves.
Ungapezeka uchoka kuenda ni mudima chaweka kai mulipe malaiti vanapa vintu. So finka vakanso waboyangana ko kuno so that vaikako security better ngati veve ise vanti dandaula vavimbera ko vanti dandaula. Vantu vanambotikana kukwera mamotoka manje chifukwa cha taxi ya vantu. Tepo wanyika motoka kukanira chifukwa ati yo aganza ati kusogolo za mcha ataki umpoke motoka umpoke something chifukwa cha malazo na kungo kuba masola vantu vatikira kuti tizenda makilini vakaingiwa no chita vamushe chifukwa cha kuti vakuba.
The pedestrians say failure to do so could endanger many lives, as the nearest police post is in Bawaleni compound, which is a distance of close to 1 hour on foot. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
There you have it. That's a story done by Zipola Mushara on vandalism. It affects every community. People continue to vandalize property, public infrastructure. This is not good. It delays development, and we have to make sure that we guard jealously our infrastructure, because at the end of the day, it is put up to save our interest. But you know, people with ill motives, people with criminal mentality have no regard for that. So let's always report such suspects to the police to ensure that we safeguard ourselves, because at the end of the day, those are street lights are key towards providing that much needed security, especially at night. So let's just make sure that we do the right things, and also let's be proactive as community members and report those people who are fond of damaging public infrastructure, because at the end of the day, you find that the council will be spending on the same things they already invested in. So when those resources can actually be channeled to other needy areas. So let's make sure that we just we guard our infrastructure jealously, and to avoid such issues. Now, we also look at two stories before we call our guest, and that's a story where Patriotic Front Deputy Media Director Edwin Lifwekero says that there's no iota of truth in a session by the United Party for National Development, UPND, that the PF is pushing for former Republican President Edgar Lungu to recontest the party's presidency and stand for the general election come 2026. The other story is Ministry of Information and Media Director spokesperson Tawo Kawana has disclosed that 7 days ultimatum has elapsed, yet the opposition Patriotic Front has failed to comply with some political party law requirement under the Registrar of Society. Let's look at this story. We'll be back on the other side.
So the issue of whether the PF is doing certain machinations behind the scene or deploying certain tactics to delay the convention on account that we want to give room for President Edgar Lungu to prepare himself to come and take that mantle again. I think it's neither here nor there. I think let's leave the issue of the former president and the innuendos that are being made that he wants to come back to come and run the party again. It's neither here nor there. From the party's perspective, from the party's point of view, there is no time or at any given point did the President Edgar Lungu come to the party to say he has rescinded his decision and that he was going to stand for presidents again, despite the fact that, yes, legally it's debatable, of course, but we know that legally the man is on firmer ground. If assuming that More wanted to stand, he will. But we are aware, from the party's perspective, we are very comfortable. We know that the president made an announcement that to the party, to the membership of the party, that is no longer there. So the delay of the convention, the PF convention, has nothing to do with any procrastination of any thought by any member that at some point we must give room to former President Edgar Lungu to come.
An extra 21 days given, which lapsed, they didn't do anything about it. And an extra 14 days given, again it lapsed, nothing happened. And the final one was the 7 days that was given. Again, they haven't done anything about it. The 7 days elapsed yesterday. So as of yesterday, the Patriotic Front as a political party have not complied. Now, instead of wasting time trying to blame the government, trying to draw in the president into their squabbles, or finding a leader for themselves, what is important is that they could have taken time to comply with the Registrar of Societies so that their political party is in good standing. Now, we all are aware that even during their time, 19 political parties were deregistered for the reason of non-compliance. And as of today, it is clear and confirmable that the Patriotic Front have not complied with the requirements at the Registrar of Societies. And these include security clearance and identification for the so-called office bearers. So we just want to make the nation aware that there is no compliance from the Patriotic Front, and if they claim that they have complied, it is very simple. All they need to do is produce their receipt, which shows that they complied. And I know that they cannot do that because they have not complied. So this is just to make the nation aware that the Patriotic Front, though claiming that they have complied, they have not complied. And the 7 days they were given elapsed yesterday, meaning that from today going forward, anything, and I mean anything, including deregistration or not, may happen.
There you have it. Those are the two stories we're looking at. In case you still want to get to give us a comment on those two stories pertaining to the political fraternity, you can do so, dear viewers, and give us your opinions. Now, in studio, I've been joined by the National Restoration Party, NAREP, Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Martin Mulenga, to help me discuss various topical issues. Now, Mr. Mulenga, welcome to the program.
Thank you and good morning, Mr. Soko.
Good morning. Interesting. We have been looking at quite a number of stories here on the Camnet Breakfast Show, but we'd also want to get your perspective. First of all, we're looking at a story on the deregistration of the PF. The PF, according to the Ministry of Information and Media Director spokesperson, Mr. Tabo Kawana, he was suggesting that they have failed to comply within the 7 days, and that they still risk being deregistered if they do not comply, and that this is despite them given ample time to do so. What would be your message to that? What's your take on that?
Thank you very much. I think the Patriotic Front, being a political party that had been in government before, they were in government for 10 years, and now they're in opposition for almost 2 years now. They understand what it means to be a political party and what it takes for a political party to sustain itself, whether in government or in ruling. They know what is expected of them. Some of them were ministers of Home Affairs, and they have those in their National Executive Committee. And we believe that they understand what it means to comply with the necessary requirements that are supposed to be put in place. It'd be very difficult for us, even as Zambians, who would want political parties to exist, because these are the people that keep government in check. And as National Association Party, we feel that they need to find ways and means to make themselves relevant by making sure that they do that which is expected of them. And we are hopeful that definitely they've got brains that will make them do what is expected of them so that they could be in good standing.
What would happen if the PF was to be deregistered?
It's just a political party. Many political parties, like Tabu was saying.
Just a political party, but a political party with members of parliament. Most of the political parties who have been deregistered, you'd find that most of them had no member of parliament, no single member of parliament.
So the question is, why are they not trying to make sure that they follow what is expected of them? So they are the ones that understand why they are able to dally-dally in making sure that they put things in place. But if you fail to comply, just like in football, if you hand the ball in the 18, it's a penalty. So they do understand the repercussions of not following the expected guidelines for them to stand as a political party. And we hope and believe that they've got brains, like I said earlier on. They've got lawyers, they've got people that are able to make them do what is expected of them. And we would hope that they are able to do that. But failure to do that, no one can twist the PF into doing what they're supposed to do. And I sympathize with them that they can find themselves in such a situation. But we do understand, you know, the PF has no leader at the moment. They have no president. And most of the office bearers that are there now were people that this executive that Mouse Samba is challenging in court, that they do not have legal, maybe probably would say local standard. They've got no legal authority, so to speak, for them to be in those offices. So they are in a situation where there's so much confusion in the Patriotic Front. But our hope and faith is that they get to understand what they're supposed to do and they do that which is right.
Maybe if they push for an early election and sit the UPND. Could that be what part of the motives?
How?
Because they feel the UPND is losing ground.
How would the PF surely of all political parties be the ones to push for early elections? You know, the Patriotic Front, they did not just lose to the UPND. They lost to the Zambian people. If you lose with a margin of 1 million votes, over 60% voted, even some of the PF voted against the PF. We saw how the PF were behaving. They were even banning cash money put on the bread. They were putting money in their homes. There was so much corruption. There was so much thuggery, such that the Zambian people said, whatever it takes, let's remove these guys. So if you lose an election by way of being removed like a revolt, you need to think twice. What are the things that led us to lose in the manner that we did? And you can think after less than 2 years that we can go for, let's be serious, and think that we can go for early elections. How? There must be some kind of hallucination that they found themselves into, that they can even reach to that extent. But for sure, the Zambian people do know that the Patriotic Front were a team of corrupt thugs and people that were full of lawlessness. That's how they lost in the manner they did. So they should take time of introspection and get back to the real world to say, what made us lose the election in the manner that we did? What did we do to the Zambian people that now they can entrust us with leadership? These are the questions that I think the PF should ask themselves all the time. Not to think like, no, we can come back. How? Which country? It can't happen.
Interesting, Mr. Mlenga. Now, let's also look at other topical issues. The UPND administration is being accused of failing to get to the bottom in terms of the issue of access to medicine in health facilities. And this is a campaign promise for the UPND to say, when we come into power, we'll make sure that drugs are available 24/7. However, this has been topical, and that in terms of stories pertaining to drug shortages in the country, do you regret having supported the UPND, or are you happy how they are addressing this?
You know, I must mention that there are challenges. Challenges there. We want to be real with ourselves, but we need to ask ourselves, where are these challenges emanating from? The president, I think, did take time to visit the Ministry of Health to get to understand issues on the ground as to what is obtaining at the Ministry of Health. Under the Patriotic Front, we had issues of suppliers, issues that were to do with corruption that was so rife under the Ministry of Health. And you see, when you're putting things in place, it would not be overnight. Some of the people that could have been supplying drugs at a time that the PF were in power were those that the PF were engaging themselves with in terms of corruption. We saw how much money that was being lost under the Ministry of Health. It became a conduit of corruption. Under the COVID, at the expense of our health, people were stealing money. First masks, which were supposed to be given sometimes for free under DMMU, landed themselves under the Ministry of Health, and people were selling. Who were doing that? PF cadres. So now if you inherit a mountain of corruption that the UPND did find in the Ministry of Health, you need to take time to cleanse the system of these, I would call, encumbrances, such that by the time you are taking it off to move forward, you need to start on a new slate. And that's what our colleagues and the Ministry of Health, I think, did, to making sure that this ministry now is cleansed of these issues of corruption, and let's move forward to doing what is right. In the process of doing that, getting rid of these corrupt elements and getting rid of these corrupt suppliers and all that, it did affect the supply chain. And this is how come probably we find ourselves in a situation that we find ourselves into. But the good thing is that efforts are being done all the time and every time to making sure that we alleviate this problem of drug shortages. And we've seen how money is being pumped into the ministry to alleviate this problem. We are not at our best, But the good thing is that efforts are being done, whereby if you're at 10%, they've upped the supply maybe to 50, 60%. Efforts are being made in that regard to making sure that our people, when they do go to the hospital, they are being supplied with what they need, and those are the drugs.
Interesting perspectives you do bring out. But did you foresee this, that the PF was making these mistakes? I think the UPND did foresee this, to say they are making mistakes, and when we come, we'll do these things better. Does it have to take the entire 5 years to clean up the system?
Not 5 years at all. It's just about less than 2 years. The magnitude at which things were found. You are looking at a house to say, probably I'll do the windows, I'll do the door, and do a little bit of changing of a glass pane there. You go into that house, you find even the roof itself is almost falling down. That if you sit in that house, the next rain season, it will just collapse on your head. And this is what, in most cases, our colleagues in government did find themselves into, where things were almost collapsing onto them. So they needed to take measures to see how does this roof hold before we started looking at the window panes, the doors, and all those small things that needed to be looked at. And this is what our colleagues of the UPND did find themselves into. And this, the Zambian people need to understand. It's not easy to turn things around if you find that these things were taken to ruin in the manner that our colleagues...
But nobody forced the UPND to make those commitments to say, we'll do this within the shortest period of time.
The UPND and ourselves realized that this country, under the hands of the PF, were gone as a nation.
But when you were making promises, you made them seem as if it's when you're coming, things will be okay.
There was so much lawlessness on the PF, there was so much corruption, people putting money in their homes. These issues, you know how it is. Up to now, we're still talking about money being put in people's homes. Almost 2 years. They were putting money, dollars in their homes. An example is for everyone there to see. From the top, coming to down, they were putting money in sacks and everything else. Now, you see, this country, even the PF, I can tell you, voted against the PF. They had realized we need to work with the Zambians. Because Zambia is bigger than these political parties. How then do we work to make sure that we move the PF? Let's see what the UPND had. The UPND had this, and this. Then people like ourselves, the NAREP, and many other Zambians, we appealed to them. Let's remove these guys. Before we die, let's remove these guys. And we did just like that. And we voted them in mass. That's how the PF lost the elections. So you see, when you go into government, the damage that you find now, you find that it's so big that it will not take maybe 1 year. It may take 2 years, it may take 3 years. Others, 1 year. Like, for instance, we have pensioners being paid. How long did it take for our colleagues to pay the pensioners? It took them decades. A decade, I would say. They failed to clear. Here comes in a government, found a lot of debt, be able to clear the pensioners, be able to pay Tazara workers who were 17 years, others 18 years, without having been paid their money. Indian workers, and many others. Now people are talking about the 20% pension, 20% NAPSA, like benefit. The teachers, the nurses who are grappling with debt, now that there is this money that is coming their way, the PF were allowing the Zambian people to say there will be a debt swap, there will be a debt swap until election. But look at this government. Even when we don't have an election, this government says, let the people get their 20%, such that those that are working can clear their debt. Those that are not working can put that money, plow it into agriculture. And that's how a serious government does. Give people the money that they deserve, so that they can get into other issues to up the economy by way of investing in agriculture, into mining, and many other sectors where they feel money can be put into. And if you see the Zambian people have money, I will employ one person, the other guy will employ two, the other one will employ 7, and the economy would get better. And these are the intentions that we're saying this government is putting in place. And we are many more. Meal allowances for our students, which under the PF, yeah, lisengo liambo. I don't know how you can put it in English, a dog with horns. You'll never find it. But there it is. Now, this government is saying, let them be given meal allowances. There are efforts being put in place in making sure that poverty is being alleviated. And that's what the Zambian people now are talking about. There is yet more to be done, but we are on the right footing.
Interesting. Now, let's also look at some government critics were of the view that the recent incident where of the leaked audio. I don't know if you as NANEP have taken an interest in that, because there has been concern to say, but how is the president directing his officials to give business to his, to a minister? That's the story pertaining to the FRA board chairperson as well as the Northwestern Province minister. So now, is that fighting corruption?
You know, hearsay.
Isn't that tantamount to abuse of office or authority? Or now, how do the ordinary Zambians get business if ministers are going to be prioritizing each other? Do you have a perspective on that?
I must mention I do not have. And what I must say is that it's hearsay. So hearsay, the audio that is there, you mean you haven't heard the audio? I have not heard the audio, and I would not be able to defend or speak on the other side to say this is wrong, this is correct. I do not have the information.
But the scenario...
It can only take someone who's got evidence leading to that you can come out and speak authoritatively about that matter. So how then can I speak authoritatively on a matter that I'm not privy to?
Okay, generally, what do you make of the leaking of the audio involving the conversation with the president? Is that justifiable? Does that accord respect to the presidency? Are you happy that people leaked an audio where the president is making directive to people? He's entitled to do that, but was it right to make sure that that audio goes public?
Yeah, like I said, Mr. Soko and our viewers out there, the intricacies of what could have happened, I may not have information in my fingertips. It may be unwise for me to speak on a subject that I do not have information about. And at the same time, I'll tell you that if there's an element of corruption, this time around, we've been given, I think, leverage. Where people sniff corruption, there is need to report matters of corruption to the relevant authority. And you will not be victimized as a whistleblower. So where the Zambian people are able to sniff or feel there's some element of corruption, we are at liberty to come out and say, we feel there is something wrong here. And this is the good thing about what is obtaining now. Remember, under our colleagues, the PF, the minister would be in a corruption, let's say, allegation. 10 hours you would be at SCC. 14 hours you'd be in Parliament to give a ministerial statement. And the SCC was just a place where they were like trying to cleanse, or a place where they would want to make them feel that there's something being done about it. And yet, there was nothing being done. We saw Malanji visiting the Anti-Corruption Commission. We saw Tito Otela. We saw Tito Tinofia. And some of us, that time, would be able to come out and say, even when it's in black and white that there's corruption in these issues, nothing will be done. And for sure, nothing was being done.
But what do you think will be the difference, considering that others have also argued that State House is the Anti-Corruption Commission is now being domiciled at State House? Others have argued that undermines the fight against corruption.
Domiciled, meaning that they are now housed at State House, you want to imply?
Now they have to, all their affairs are being handled by the office of the president. They are under State House, they are under the office of the president.
No, the willingness to fight corruption must not be construed into thinking that
you were just saying, Mr. Mulenga, you were just from saying that the previous government, from its leaders and everyone, they were probably allegedly involved in corruption. And what stops this process from controlling the Anti-Corruption Commission?
You know,
before you respond, let's pick this call.
Yeah.
Hello, good morning. You are through to the Camnet Breakfast Show.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
Fine, and how are you, sir? Your name and where you're calling us from?
Yeah, my name is Mwansa.
From where?
Mr. Mwansa.
So, Wezi. Mr. Mwansa, you can go ahead with your contribution, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, the panel.
Good morning, Mwansa.
Very well, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I'm following, so I just came halfway. But I've heard from my brother, Mr. Mulega there, now Deputy Secretary General.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to perhaps advise my brother that you are a party that is aspiring to come and check the reins or rule this country. And the best would be you speak for your manifesto, what you want to come and do for the people of Zambia. Speaking about PF and Zambians, Zambia is already judged PF by their teeth. That's why we removed them from office. And we are the new government. So if we keep on talking about PF, what is Mali planning to come and do? Because obviously, Mr. Mulega, unless you live elsewhere, you can't tell me that UPND is just done everything right. No. That's the way you're coming out. The way you're coming out, it's clear that then you are saying marriage should be valid. Let's have UPND continue. That's what you're telling me. Is it true UPND done it all? When there's a shortfall of meaning and you're able to hear what is happening, people are clamoring for meaning. Fuel is escalated. There is poverty. We that are down on the ground and are feeding people are getting the weight of it. So tell us as narrative what you intend to do if you are to challenge UPND. Because yes, UPND is scoring, but there are some areas where UPND is not scoring. There are plenty of them. If you follow the interviewer, he's trying to put you in the light of the problems that are on the ground, which are very, very eminent. Milling shortages is just all over. Today, we took your that Yabuga. And it's always, I'm speaking from the truth. And then, yes, we appreciate the 20% partial payment. Obviously, there was some advice that went to the president, and I must commend him, because it has pushed some currency in the economy, which has pushed on up a bit. But trust you me, this will not go on forever. And we are going on up to 2026. I've not just gotten my partial payment, but when you look at it, it's not something that you really push into a bigger investment. We thank God for that. But on those matters where the government is not doing better, let's tell the people is not that better, you need to improve. So that's Zambia. That's the reason we removed PF. So let's not spend time to talk about PF. We judge them. Let's talk about narrative. What is it that you're planning to come and do? Let's talk about business practice. What is it? So that we provide checks and balances. If I'm looking at the extent to you, sir, you are simply saying you can be done it for. And those are the factors that they made other parties to go. Remember, you pay a ban. They were telling you things on the ground are not good, sir. You went on saying, no, they are okay. What happened? It's Zambians to stand on that day and make a decision like they did the NSPF. So as narrative, what is it that you have on the table for Zambia? You should learn from how UPND's administration is running the affairs. You can't talk about corruption as not being there in the UPND. It's there. It's eminent. Those are facts. They are there. Shortage of meeting is there. Where you are seeing this going down to it, we are seeing. So as narrative, let's provide good checks and balances to the current government for the better of Zambia. And thank you, Mr. Secretary General, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mwansa from Solwezi. They are giving us a perspective on the conversation we are having with Mr. Mulenga, who is the NAREP Deputy Secretary General. Interesting point Mr. Mwansa brings out, and I want you to just give your perspective to his perspective. He's asking pertinent questions. Is it true that the UPND has done it all? Is NAREP buried on the ground, and that it will continue to be a surrogate of the UPND? Because I'm sure because he's drawing the principles based on the NAREP. NAREP was not just any other political party. It was a political party that has its own style of politics, especially under President Elias Chipimo. Now, the questions Mr. Mwansa is bringing out, what's your perspective on that?
Okay, I'll explain this. Number one, Mr. Mwansa must know that NAREP is an alliance partner of the UPND.
Does being an alliance partner take away your opinion?
Let me explain this. When the UPND were in opposition, there were about 6 political parties that joined hands together with the UPND to campaign, to make sure that we sell our message as a team that UPND forms government. And we still stand today as an alliance partner. And when that time arises that probably we're saying we don't need alliances, or the alliances, the UPND said they don't need alliances, the Zambian people will be told. But as we stand today, we're an alliance partner. And it's very clear. These things that we did talk about are things that the Zambian people are able to see. Mr. Mwansa did talk about the issue of millimil. Yes, there was a problem to do with millimil. But today, the government has responded. We don't have shortages. If he's saying Solwezi, we are yet to know if there are shortages in Solwezi. But as a nation, we know for sure that there is stability where the supply of millimil is concerned.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mwansa talked about us as NAREP. Are we buried? We are not. We are an entity registered and compliant to all the issues, unlike the PF, which Mr. Mwansa said we do not need to talk about. But we're a political party, registered, with office bearers, and we pay everything that we need to pay with shop societies. We are in good standing with everything. So we are an existing political party. And there's no harm in political parties working together. Even our colleagues in the PF, I overheard one of their members calling for an alliance. And if you see the way the PF and other political parties are working, they are in sort of some loose alliance.
But if you look, Mr. Mulenga, others have argued that these alliances do not work. We have hosted other alliance partners on this platform. They have equally stated to say, on this, but as a political party, would have loved this government does ABCD. Unlike the way the current approach. Others have given how they would think things would be done better. Now, but when it comes to NAREP, does it mean that you have to close all your opinions, or rather the objectivity of your political party on how things can be better administered in the country just because you belong to the alliance?
No, not at all. You know, government and development, it's a process. It's a process. There's no one who will tell you that America has attained it all. To be a lie. The UK government has attained it all. It's a lie. So what we are saying that the UPND are in government. Our role as an alliance partner, as NAREP, speaking on behalf of NAREP, we are to help our colleagues govern. And that's what we are doing. Where there are lapses, because we are partners, we've got access to them where we can tell, if that's what we end up with.
Let's pick this call, Mr. Mike.
Thank you.
Hello, you are through to the Camnet Breakfast Show. Good morning.
Morning. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you. And how are you, sir? Your name and where you are calling us from?
I'm Brother P. I'm calling from
Luansha. Brother P, you can go ahead with your contribution. Brother K?
Well, I just wanted to say, Mr. Mulenga is eating and is feeling fine at his place. He's being paid by the UPND. He is talking about, what made the PF to lose is because they were bragging themselves about what they were doing. They were not at the grassroots. Things are bad at the grassroots under the UPND. 2 years in government, no one can say if you come at the grassroots that it's enjoying. The UPND are bad managers. If they were good managers, if they found the PF value now, they were supposed to maintain, but they never PF. Now then they've gone back west. Fuel is gone, transport, everything, everything. How much is this full? A normal person cannot even support that. We need somebody to put the house in order. Not what Mr. Mlenga is saying. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your contribution, sir. We value your opinion. Mr. Mlenga, the left thing, they found things in bad condition, but they shouldn't have made it worse. That's the argument. People are complaining that the cost of living is too high.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a different perspective of that opinion.
First and foremost, it's saying I'm eating. I'm eating. No, nobody is eating. We've always lived our lives. And
as alliance partners, we are not eating.
We are living our lives as Zambians.
You mean there are no shares?
We don't need to have shares. This government is for all of us.
Does that confirm that you have been abandoned?
No. I'm telling you, this government is for all of us.
Does even the alliance exist?
When there is free education, when there's free education, there's freedom of speech, of association, there's freedom of speech, there's freedom. Our children who are at UNZA are able to get bursaries. These are the things that we are looking forward to. Let's not be egocentric and selfish at the same time. Where, as individuals, like the way it were under our colleagues, where a few individuals on top were putting money in tax, where a few individuals were building houses. That's not how you govern the country. What we are saying is that let privileges be given to Zambians that deserve. I want to go to another point where he was saying things are bad. Yes, things can be perfect, especially when you inherit a government where you find there is a debt which is unsustainable. As a country, we are suffocated. If it were a home, we are going to say, because things were bad. We were failing to pay our obligation, we were defaulting, there was COVID in between, money was not there in the coffers. Now this government says, where do we start it from? First and foremost, let's see how we can help our people so that we don't drown. Let's see how we can help our people. And this is how we can help our people. Give them partial payments. Pay their retirees.
Increase ZESCO. Increase electricity.
Let me get
as well as increase bus fares.
Let me get to
increase
that.
fuel. You should also be adding that, Mr. Mlenga. Don't be selective.
Fuel. Let's remove the subsidy. You get the point? Let's put it into context.
Is a subsidy cushioning the people? Is removing a subsidy making easy for people, Mr. Mlenga?
The money that is being removed, that should have been put in fuel, the government says, let's put it to free education, where each and every child that could not have a privilege to go to school is given an opportunity to learn from grade 1 to grade 12 without having to pay anything. The only thing they need to pay is attention, and they get their 6 points. I'm a beneficiary of that. My son was at Monali, and he got what he could. Because there was an opportunity, a window, where we were not able to pay anything. What should happen to a child in Shangombo, in Kasama, in Kaputa, in Chandamukuru, who may not have the school fees?
You are mentioning, yeah.
The government is saying, let's put money where it's needed most. The education. And we have an educated nation. I can assure you, and I can assure our viewers there, the educated nation will bring forth development. And this government says, we subsidize this fuel, the electricity.
What industry?
Why not put money
Mr. Mlenga, the argument would be, what industry have we seen coming that is fully owned by Zambians or government that is going to help us create jobs since this government has come and talking about production and in terms of value addition?
There are so many things that Zambians now are doing. If you look at, just go as near as less than 5 kilometers, 2 kilometers from where we are, you go to Karingalinga.
We are talking about large scale. Those Karingalinga welders, in fact, have been displaced by those people who are buying houses there.
I'm giving you an example. a typical example of what is obtaining now. You go to garden compound, maybe Kalingalinga is not good for you. You go to garden compound, you go to Chawama, you find that there is a boom in terms of people building houses because of scarcity of accommodation in Lusaka.
How can be building a house be development? And the same housing development
What does it take to build a house?
Now, who is buying the houses? Are you also taking into account that people, these people of foreign origin are also buying off structures in these communities and taking over? Are you also aware of that fact, Mr. Mulenga?
Are you cognizant of this fact that Zambians, as we speak now, are getting more land than they used to get 10 years ago? Is that not correct? Katuba there was literally a village, but today you find there are companies, Zambian-owned companies, who are saying 15 by 30, 20 by 40.
But what does that get to do?
Money.
Had to do with the
development,
enhancing production.
I'm talking about development. I'm talking about development. Development starts at household level. These are individuals probably who've been renting. Now they are saying, let's find a piece of land of ourselves that can build ourselves a house. Development starts at household level. If myself, as Mulenga, I produce 5 bags of, or 10 bags or 20 bags of maize, if I'm able to sustain myself, the community where I live sustain themselves. In the end, that's the how
What government policy is there to support such an initiative?
I can tell you and our viewers out there, if there's a period in which Zambians now are thinking more about doing things by themselves, it's now. Because jobs are difficult to find. Government can only employ a number. We've seen the 30,000 going in, we've seen the 11,000 going in, but still, we still have a lot that need to get employed. But now, because of government initiative, they are saying, let's create an environment where private sector is able to thrive. And this president is on record of having said that he wants to make sure that all those things that were hindrances to allow Zambians to do business, let's remove them to allow the Zambian people be able to do business without hindrances.
This week on Monday, we had a press conference by 3 politicians, political parties in the opposition, being the Republican, the Zambia Republican Party, led by Light Musoma, as well as the new Congress Party of Peter Chanda. We also had Canisius Banda, who is a PF member. They had an argument that the UPND administration is turning Zambia into a colony of the United States. What do you make of such a comment as a sympathizer of the UPND, as a member of the alliance?
First of all, when you mention the names first, it tells the story. Who are those?
They are opposition political parties.
And you see,
like NAREB, they are opposition political parties like NAREB.
No, we are different from them.
What makes you different?
NAREB has been on record.
The only difference is that you are affiliated to the UPND. They were affiliated to the PF.
Even in the manner that we've done our politics. NAREB, I think Zambian people know the way we've done our politics. We've done politics of decency. These, the Peter Chandas and these, they've been living off the PF from time immemorial. And where we saw how these people were small political parties, were surrogates of the PF, and they were living off that. And the PF was ready to pay for that. Just like we talk about thuggery. Even when the PF were talking about thugs, these thugs were not just doing it for themselves. They were paymasters in this government who are calling themselves ministers. And today they are saying, no, thugs were Chan. We've interacted with them. We know them. And these people were doing whatever they were doing because the PF was able to finance all that. Even certain political parties, I think the Zambian people do understand that they know that these political parties were living off the PF. But now, this time around, they have nowhere to run to because we've got politics of decency now. They want now to prove a point that this guy, or probably these people, are not giving us, probably in the manner that he wants to. Let's now talk ill. What political party has the...
So you mean they are speaking against the government because the UPND is not giving them anything?
This government is clean. They don't want to involve themselves into
their opinion, does that mean that their opinion does not matter?
It's respected, but not to be gotten.
Remember, that's how the views were ignored and the results were on the 12th.
But if you look at the PF and the UP, the difference
on
is
the
so
12th of
clear.
August. So let's pick this call. Let's pick this call. Hello, you are through to the Camnet Breakfast Show. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Fine, how are you, sir?
We are good, sir. How are you?
All right, I'm talking to Mr.
You are talking to Mr.
from Mumbwa?
Yes.
All right, you can go ahead with your contribution, sir.
Yeah, I'm talking to the good topic to reach every day, people can be constituting every day.
Thank you.
Not just once a week, every day. It's a very important topic.
All right, sir.
Yeah, second one. You know, if this country wants this country to be developed, we need to support people not to be employed. You need to support people to be employed. We can see lots of people, these people who are employing the government, they are not doing a lot. There are people who are renting to people who are not employed. So it is very important to support people to do business. Because if you support 2,000 people running a business, they will employ more than 20,000 which government is employed. So going forward to supporting people to be employed as an STU, as a teacher, it is not helping the government. The government is losing a lot of money paying the message, paying the teachers. So going forward, we are going to change this country. Let's support the government to see the number of people getting employed in the government paying off. Let's not use money to support people who are doing this. In this compound, all these houses we are seeing, people own this house. They are not employed by the government. They are doing business. These cars we are seeing along the street, people are buying vehicles. They are not employed by the government. They are doing business. So meaning if you support people, those who are doing business, we improve this country. So that is my contribution.
Thank you very much for your contribution, sir. There you have it. He's mentioning a good perspective. If you continue, for instance, expanding the public sector wage bill, it means that more money you are collecting from taxes is going towards paying workers, and less is going to development. But if you support private entities or private businesses, it means that you'll be able to empower more people, create more jobs. So that's a straightforward perspective there, but in case you can also add to it, Mr. Mulenga there.
Actually, I totally agree with him when he says the private sector needs to be supported so they're able to thrive. And this is what this government is doing, to making sure that the private sector actually does thrive by giving them incentives, by giving them opportunities to do business. And this is what this government is doing. And on the other side, I do agree, I may agree or disagree with him, because we need services from government. When my brother there gets sick, he needs to find a nurse in the hospital.
It did not say you completely do away, but
I'm just trying to tell him, if it was taking him 10 minutes to be at some point to be attended to by the nurse. Now that there are more nurses, you'll find someone is in the ward, the other nurse will be attending to him, taking the temperature and all that. The crowds that were being attended to, probably the ratio of nurse to patient was very high. Now, because of the number of nurses that we have, we are reducing that gap. And by so doing, this government is saying, let's improve on government delivery. So it is with teachers. We have more teachers now, where teachers teachers were taking the whole school. I've seen that in Western Province, where a school was being managed by 2 teachers. But now with the incoming of more teachers, probably we'll see the learners now having more teachers to attend to them, which again, I would tell him that we need to balance vis-a-vis our population, the number of people that need to be attended to in school, in hospitals, and all that. But it's on the right track. We need to improve on helping the private sector.
Interesting. Now, I also want to bring to your attention one interesting debate that has been in the country. This is a debate pertaining to the Konkola copper mines, KCM and Vedanta. Before I get to ask you that question, let's pick this call first. Hello, you are through to the Camnet Breakfast Show. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
All right, whom am I talking to?
This is Mansa, back again.
All right, Mr. Mansa, you can go ahead. I know it should have been an issue. You can go ahead.
Mr. Brega, my brother, how I wish we could to sit together. I love the way you're coming out.
We invite you to come through to the studio. You can come and explain yourself, Mr. Mansa.
That would be nice.
So when you are in Lusaka, get in touch with us.
Certainly, I've been Lusaka, I think on Monday, I will let you know.
Yeah. All right, wonderful.
Yeah, so now, my point is perhaps an apology. When I was talking to Mr. Mlenga in the first instance, I was talking to him as Secretary General of NAREP. But he has defined himself that he's an alliance. Perhaps that topic there, or the introduction of who he is, they've changed to an alliance Secretary General and not NAREP. So, I'm just worried, sir, Mr. Mlenga. When you incline so much to an alliance, the definition of an alliance, from just the simple dictionary, is that it's a bond between families, states, or government or parties with an interest, a common interest.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you that the alliance that was formed had an interest to remove PF. Now that the PF is no more, are you still an alliance to UPND? And if the answer is yes, then you are simply telling us that NAREP is gone and gone. Because you forever elected and saved as NAREP, as UPND. Because then the question comes in, what is the interest or the position of NAREP to Zambians? Okay. Are you satisfied, Mr. Mlenga, with the state of affairs as NAREP, not as alliance? When you are talking of going to the hospital, sir, it's sad. We are on the ground. Perhaps you are going to other services. You have talked of nurses being increased. Do you know how long it takes, sir? On Sunday, I was at the hospital. I went there around 15. I was coming back around 24 hours. There we are. So the reality is on the ground, sir. And if you love UPND, you should have been agreeing with what is happening on the ground to save UPND. Trust you, mister, I'm speaking from the love point of view. This is what is happening. When we are bringing out issues, the best that you can do is listen, take them, and go as an alliance member and advise. Because when you are there is already a class divided, us down and you there. You are cut off. You don't know what is happening on the ground. So please, sir, we are urging you. When you come, it's not NAREP, but it's an alliance. Now, as you can the alliance, we want you to hear the issues on the ground. To me, the education that you talked about, teachers coming on board, I think first priority should have been given to health sector. Because to me, health is the biggest problem that we have in Ghana. There are no medicines in this hospital. No medicines, sir. I'm telling you the truth, God in heaven. No medicines. There are no medicines. And to me, education has never been a challenge. Because even in the past, we who live in the villages, children are running away from schools to be impregnated. They are running away from school. So school has never been a challenge. Education has never been a challenge to Zambians. What has been a challenge is the health sector. Because yesterday, I told you that I'm a community man. Just yesterday, God is my witness, I bought 2 medicines for somebody who was prescribed because there was nothing at the hospital. These are realities. I still have the prescription right now, which means that ground. Let's not, speak from the book's point of view. Let's speak from the reality. We love the president, whatever he's doing, but let's advertise him rightly. Let's help him by bringing up the issue. If we listen to cadres a lot, they have an interest. They have an interest. They want to keep their positions. And so they will not tell you exactly what is happening on the ground. But come to a commoner, you will hear, the one who is affected, you will hear the truth, like I'm telling you. So thank you so much. I'll get the line, and I think I'll call Camnet to come and visit Camnet.
You have to. You have to when you're in Lusaka. Thank you. Interesting views there from Mr. Mansa. Now, on the narrative point of view, what's your take?
It's
all rosy.
Mr. Mansa.
It's all rosy.
Yeah. I'll tell you that
things are perfect.
We are in the process, and development anywhere else is a process. And I think every Zambian...
In that process, there's no admission. You cannot admission that the process and everything.
What I'm saying is that in the process of development, there could be challenges here and there. But you must be sure that the people that are given the responsibility to discharge their duties are putting in all that they have to making sure that they alleviate. Keyword, alleviate.
People usually argue, Mr. Mulenga, that insala taipembera omuntu.
Insala taipembera omuntu. But basoko ngachimwa ndemi pikiro wali pa 18 hours. Na isa ponya ka slice of bread. Na isa mponesha ko ka biscuit pa 12 hours. Insala nangu taire mipembera. But inside the ipa yo attention.
But your bread you can't beat me on tamuposa for your bread. That's the argument.
Mr. Mansa talked about teachers and how education hasn't been a challenge.
In that people would struggle to just make sure that they educate
their viewers out there. The majority of Zambians are appreciating this free education. Some PF, I fail to understand the levels of thinking under some of our colleagues, some of them were even ministers, who were saying, no, the classrooms are crowded. They cannot learn.
It is true.
And the other way, you flip the coin. It tells you the number of children that could have been in the compounds or on the streets without free education. So look at things in a holistic manner. If there are 60, I'm giving you an example of 60 of pupils in the classroom. If you say you take in 40, the 20 should have been out there without having the privilege to be in class. Now this government says, let's increase the CDF from a patri 1.6 million to 28 million, such that we can empower our people who would go for bursaries to up their education in tertiary. Let's have free education from grade 1 to 12. Let's have
no. From free education has been free
1 to 12,
1 to 7. Now let's enhance it from 7 going up.
Let me finish
that context. We can also mistake that.
Let me explain this. There were PTA and all those that were being paid. We know that. We live in Zambia. So what I'm saying,
but some schools were not even paying PTA.
Yeah,
they just removed that. But what I'm still buying uniforms.
What I'm trying to explain.
They're still buying books.
Yes. What I'm saying is that,
and they are more expensive, Mr. Mulenga.
It's a process. Now that we moved into free education, I was trying to explain this point, where some of our former ministers were saying in the PF, their children are crowded in class. I wanted to finish that explanation. The question the answer I would give them is that, let's flip the coin. I was saying, it tells you the number of children that could be on the street, whilst their children were going to private schools. Now our children in Kasama, in Shangombo, in Kaputa, who may not be able to go to Chengelo and those important, best schools, our children now are going to these schools. And the government says, we'll put more desks through the CDF, through central government, that these learners can have where to sit. What
comes first?
In terms of what?
Shouldn't you make sure that the classrooms are enough, or you have to compromise the entire quality of education?
The quality of education is very key. And this is how come...
Because even when the children were 40 in class, the quality was compromised. Now you make them 100 in a classroom. What are you trying to achieve?
Let me explain to Mr. Soko and our viewers there into context. The learners are now 16 class.
Beyond
the teachers,
that, and beyond that, and beyond that.
And beyond that. Let's put 70 to your wish. They are 70 in class. This school, Mutambe, in Mandevu, had 50 teachers who were rotating from one class to the other and getting so tired that they're not able to teach properly. Again, talking about compromise in terms of the quality of education that they need to give. Now, this school, Mutambe, from 60, has 90 teachers. Simple mathematics. So this teacher who was taking maybe 3 or 4 classes will have now maybe 1 class to attend to, and these newly recruited teachers now will take on the other classes. So if we talk about quality, we're talking about the number of students that are going there, what kind of education are they able to get. That is quality.
Mr. Mulenga, interesting aspect also was coming from the Copper Belt. This is my last question, where people from the Copper Belt feel that there's a feeling that people are imposing Vedanta on them that are to come back under KCM. We understand that the government has justified that it cannot address issues pertaining to Vedanta and KCM in court, in that they delay the process and the mining, and that's the best option was to just do it outside the court process, which many of the stakeholders have equally agreed to. But however, there's a concern here, because prior to the August 12, 2021 general election, the Alliance president and the UPND president, Hakainde Hichilema, did assure the nation that Vedanta was not going to bring back Vedanta as a conditions as to why Vedanta probably were supporting them, because then the Patriotic Front had accused the current president that he was working with Vedanta in the background, and now that if he wins, he will make sure that Vedanta comes back. Now, this is now if we've seen that these talks have protracted for a long time, and I'm aware the government is bringing this matter to a closure soon. However, the concern, Mr. Mulenga, is that what would it mean? Would it mean that the president did lie to the Zambian people for saying that when he was being accused that he was going to bring back Vedanta, or what should he do in this case? Just your opinion as NAREP, as Alliance partners. Should he apologize to Zambians to say, well, what did you think, just generally?
Mr. Soko, and our viewers out there, issues of court and I would say litigation.
Don't forget the context.
Yeah, I'll not forget it. Litigation are quite complex matters that are not matters that we do overnight. These are matters that need a lot of legal jargons and all that, which were at play. The Patriotic Front turned Vendetta into a cash cow. There was just looting that was there. This government comes in and says, matters of court will take us many years, and yet our suppliers and our people will be suffering. Why not bring these things to the closure? And you rightly put it, now we are almost getting there. Meaning that this government is saying people have suffered enough. Let's find solution to their problems. And the president is on record having said that he will make sure that the Zambian people get their right share where mineral resources are concerned. And this means the mines. And we are getting there. And soon and very soon, we'll hear that now the mines are open and our people get the jobs that they have.
Answering the question. The question is on the issue of morality, the issue of truthfulness in politics. The issue is about if Vedanta is to come back fully as an investor, do you think the president needs to apologize?
The way we are putting it,
or Zambia should take it as you politicians, you continue to do things in silence, and wow, Zambians are not aware, and you champion your own interests.
And you see the propaganda that the Patriotic Front, the narrative.
You are going too far again.
I want to marry what you're putting.
You're escaping, and I must make sure that you are within.
The narrative that the Patriotic Front were putting, the propaganda that the PF had. Remember, former president, President Edgar Chagwa, at some point in Kitwe, was saying the president that time was working with it, and some Secretary General of the Patriotic Front.
With who?
With the Vendetta. And some Secretary General in the Patriotic Front, Ati Mulungushi, we've not forgotten. He was saying, pay the workers. You know, there was so much drama, and some people bought into that idea of the Patriotic Front. But the president is on record that he wants to make sure that we are off the issue of the court. Let our people...
We'll let it there. You won't manage to answer it. This is where we'll call it a day.
Oh, you want it to...
This is where we
you
call
want me
it a
to
day.
answer it in the manner that you do.
This is where we will call it a day. Thank you very much, Mr. Mlenga, for finding time to be with us.
The pleasure is always mine talking to you and our viewers out there.
Interesting. This is where we have to end our discussion for this morning on the Camnet Breakfast Show. And quite a fruitful discussion we had with Mr. Mlenga. Is the National Restoration Party, NAREP, Deputy Secretary General. And we had quite a number of issues. And our topic of discussion, we were looking at issues affecting Zambians, and more people did come through to give us their perspective and opinions. We value your contribution and support to the program. Always find time early in the morning on the Camnet Breakfast Show to always join us with what is happening in the country, and we continue to seek solutions to development. Ours is in an objective direction to ensure that we continue to contribute towards Zambia's quest to steer national development. And as usual, Camnet TV, we are keen to ensure that we take the interest of you, our dear viewers, and your opinion matters. Remember, democracy is about tolerating the views you do not like from someone you might not like. This is where we call it a day until tomorrow when we come with another interesting episode of the Camnet Breakfast Show. Stay tuned.